There was no key, no creaking front door. No smell of baked bread greeting me after school. No laughter spilling from the kitchen. No shoes kicked off in familiar corners or framed photos whispering, "You belong here." I used to wonder what was wrong with me. Why I was always knocking on the door of other people's lives, asking if there might be room inside. I watched other kids run into their houses like it was second nature, like their bodies knew the way home the way lungs know how to breathe. But me, I was always outside the frame. I learned early how to be a quiet visitor in someone else's warmth, how to carry my bag like it wasn't heavy, how to smile like I wasn't searching for someone to stay. No one tells you that some of us grow up like ghosts haunting the hallways of homes we'll never call our own. We become experts in silence, in pretending that every borrowed bed is enough. But deep down, I was always looking for something I couldn't name. I didn't know what home felt like. I only knew what it wasn't. It wasn't the sound of footsteps that didn't come when I was crying. It wasn't the cold cereal dinners or the rooms filled with strangers who called themselves temporary guardians. It wasn't the hand that only reached for me when it needed something in return. It wasn't the quiet punishments or the way the air would freeze when someone was angry. And I didn't know why. I used to think maybe home was a person. Maybe if someone loved me enough, I'd finally feel it like a key sliding into the right lock. I waited. I gave the best parts of myself to people who didn't ask for them. I clung to crumbs of affection, mistaking them for a feast. I made myself smaller, quieter, easier to love, but it never worked. They always left, or I did. Every time I packed my things, I wondered if this next place might finally be the one. A clean slate, a new chance. But no matter how many doors I walked through, I never stopped feeling like an intruder in someone else's life. I learned not to unpack, not just my clothes, but my hope. And so I became good at leaving, at saying goodbye before anyone could get too close, at pretending I preferred solitude, that I was too strong to need softness. But at night, I'd pull the blanket up to my chin and wonder what it would feel like to belong somewhere without asking. There's a unique kind of loneliness that comes from never being anyone's first choice, from hearing other kids complain about their parents, while you secretly pray to have someone to fight with. I envied the messy love of other families there. Slammed doors, their loud dinners, their awkward hugs. I would have traded all my quiet for their chaos. But time passes and you learn to make do. You learn to stitch together fragments, moments of kindness from teachers, the warmth of a friend's couch, the feeling of being seen by a stranger on the bus. You begin to gather these scraps like a quilt and tell yourself, this is enough. This is something. Still deep down, the question hums beneath your ribs. Where is my place? What if I was never meant to have one? It's a thought that wraps itself around your lungs and makes it hard to breathe. But then something shifts. It happens slowly for me. A moment here, a flicker there. The way sunlight spilled into my first apartment. The night I cried and didn't feel ashamed. The friend who brought soup when I was sick. The stranger who smiled like they knew the ache I carried. These were tiny anchors, soft reminders that maybe I wasn't invisible. I started to realize that home wasn't a place I would find. It was a feeling I could create. And so I began, clumsily, to build it not with bricks, but with boundaries, with forgiveness, with truth. I made a home out of playlists that understood me, out of books that held me when people couldn't, out of food I cooked just for myself, seasoned with love I wasn't taught but tried to give anyway. I lit candles not for romance, but to prove to myself that I deserved light. I planted roots in my own chest. I spoke my name out loud like it mattered. I hung up photos not of a past I longed for, but of the life I was learning to choose. Slowly, my reflection began to look less like a stranger. I stopped chasing people who only loved the idea of me. I stopped waiting to be chosen and began choosing myself. And in that quiet decision, something bloomed, something honest, something warm. Home, I learned, is the breath you take when no one's watching. It's the sound of your own voice, steady and soft. It's the comfort of your own skin, the one you used to hate. It's the courage to say, I belong here, even when no one claps or nods or stays. I stopped needing proof. I stopped auditioning for acceptance. I built a sanctuary inside my chest and called it home, and no one could evict me from that. It's not easy. There are still days when I scroll through memories that never happened, when I long for a mother's arms or a father's advice, when I wonder what I would have been if I had been loved better. But those days no longer define me. They visit, but they do not stay. Because now, I have a place to return to, even if it's just a corner of my mind, a heartbeat that says, I'm here. I've written my name on the walls of my own heart. I've given myself permission to stay. If you're watching this, and you've never known what it means to go home, know this. You are not broken. You are not less. You are not the absence of someone else's care. You are the presence of your own becoming. You get to create your own definition. You get to decide what safety feels like. You get to light the candle, to pour the tea, to curl up in your own presence and say, "This is mine." Let them have their white picket fences. You are building something wilder, truer. A home that lives in your breath, in your truth, in the softness you offer yourself after years of surviving. And maybe one day, someone will walk into your world and feel it to that quiet magic of a person who didn't grow up with a home, but became one. For themselves, for others, for the world. Because home is not a place, it's a feeling. And I had to invent it, but I did. And so can you.